President Mark and open it up for, if he'll willingly, to take some questions at the end of his more formal remarks. So Marta, please.
Woohoo! Thank you, Steve, and hi to everyone. I'm so happy to see all of your faces. I've missed all of you. And I have the pleasure of introducing you to the 2019-2020 Rotary International President, Mark Daniel Maloney, from the Rotary Club of Decatur, Alabama. I'm not going to read you his bio, it's on the district website, but you can find out his fascinating journey to becoming president and also his career as an attorney with his wife, Gay. But I did get a quote from one of his Rotarian friends that I found on Google that said, he's a great communicator and has a brilliant mind. He's compassionate and cares about people. I mean, you've got the whole package. So that's you, Mark. Well, I had the honor of being a part of Mark's Aloha team of governors as we connected the world. And everything was great until March came, and it's going to be March 2nd. I'll never forget the day when we canceled district conference and COVID-19 came. And before I turn it over to you, Mark, I would like to thank you very much for your guidance, your leadership, your concerns, and your compassion for all of us as we dealt with COVID-19 and those uncharted waters. And you helped us keep Rotary connected, and we really lived up to your theme. And I personally appreciated it very much. So I'm turning it over to you, Mark. Share your words of wisdom with us and make sure you let them know how you became and are the popcorn king.
Okay. So, well, thank you, Marta. Thank you, Governor Marta, and Governor Steve, thank you very much for this invitation to visit with District 5340 in Southern California. And before I get going, I think we're going to have a cameo appearance by the former First Lady of Rotary International. Here's Gay.
Hi, hey, nice to see you.
Good to see everyone.
So Marta's there, and Governor
our
Steve
favorite star.
White's, yes, our
Yes,
favorite
yes.
star. And the Rotary Club of Fallbrook is represented, and a couple other folks whom you would remember.
Great, great. Okay, well, sounds like you're about to get started. I just wanted to say hello.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you, Steve, for this invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with Rotarians in District 5340 this evening. You know, I have been extremely impressed with District 5340 there in Southern California with what it accomplishes each year and the efforts that it makes to undertake projects all over the world, and not just little projects, but substantial, significant projects, many supported by our Rotary Foundation all over the globe. And I want to congratulate you and on being examples of Rotarians as people of action. So I guess before I launch into any sort of Rotary talk, I guess I better address the issue that Marta has put down on the table this evening. How is it that I am the popcorn king? My hometown is Ridgway, Illinois. And Ridgway, Illinois is a small village with a population of less than 800 people. That was a little bit bigger when I was growing up, but not much. And I was raised on a farm 5 miles outside of Ridgeway. And this is in a county with a population of 5,600 people, less than 5,600. And you heard that right. That was 100, not 1,000. Less than 5,600 people. I think you have condo blocks in San Diego that probably have a greater population than our entire county. So this is a very rural area. There's in the entire county, there's no McDonald's, there's no hospital, there's no Walmart. We did a few years ago get a Dollar General store, and there's no traffic signal in the entire county that goes green, yellow, red. That's how rural it is. But my hometown used to be the home of a popcorn processing plant, Blevins Popcorn Company. And during the 1950s, my hometown declared itself to be the popcorn capital of the world. And beginning in 1958, they started an annual festival called Popcorn Day. And every year, Popcorn Day happens on the second Saturday of September, except during pandemic. So mark that on your calendar, the second Saturday of September. And one of the features of Popcorn Day is all the popcorn that you can eat. But in the morning on that Saturday, there are a series of, it begins with a kiddie parade, a parade with children going about in vehicles, costume, pets, and bicycles. And they receive prizes for how they're decorated. The popcorn ball, Mel, is the night before. The popcorn ball is the night before when the queen crowning happens, the Popcorn Day Queen. And then, but on Saturday, we have the kiddie parade, we have the kiddie contests, the popcorn eating contest, the bubble gum blowing contest, and the frog jumping contest. And then we have a float parade, a big parade with bands, floats, fire trucks, farm equipment. And that is the highlight of the day in the early afternoon. Well, of course, for an event such as this, there has to be a master of ceremonies, someone who is announcing everything and making sure that everything comes off well. And for the last, well, this coming Popcorn Day, 40 years, I've been the master of ceremonies for Popcorn Day. I started in 1981. And during that time, I've only missed 3 Popcorn Days. And recently, I was able to make it to Popcorn Day just barely when I was president-elect of Rotary International. And the year I was president, I had everything worked out so that there was no zone institute conflicting with Popcorn Day, so that I would be available to go to Popcorn Day my year as president. And lo and behold, for the first time since 1959, they moved the date of Popcorn Day. They couldn't find a carnival company that was available on the regular date. So they moved Popcorn Day, and I was going to be at the Institute in Brazil. I couldn't change it there at the last minute. So I have been the master of, and of course, then Popcorn Day didn't happen last year at all. And so, but I've been the master of ceremonies. You know, I announced the kiddie contests. And you know, the rules for the kiddie contest aren't written down anywhere. The rules are whatever I say they are, because I'm the announcer. Now, I think the rules are the same that the rules that I used a couple years ago. I think they're the same as the rules I used in 1981. But nobody recorded me saying it back in 1981, so nobody can prove me wrong. But anyway, Popcorn Day is a great Americana heartland event. And it is inviolate on my schedule. I work, as I tried my presidential year, to work around Popcorn Day in Ridgeway, Illinois. And if you're Googling Ridgeway, don't put an E in it. It's Ridgeway without an E. Anyway, you didn't come this evening to hear me pontificate about Popcorn Day. And of course, before I leave it though, someone who can tell you something about Popcorn Day is my childhood babysitter, who's an honorary member, Jan O'Leary, an honorary member of the Rotary Club of Fallbrook. And her husband was a long-time member of the Rotary Club of Fallbrook. And Jan, when she was a teenager and I was 3 years old, she was my babysitter. And so I visited the Rotary Club of Fallbrook twice. I've stopped in Fallbrook a total of 3 times, but visited the Rotary Club of Fallbrook here just, a couple years ago, Steve. And then, 10 years or so before that, I visited the Rotary Club of Fallbrook. And it was quite an event this last time. It was not just the Fallbrook Club, but lots of other Rotarians from throughout the district. But 2019, 2020 was quite a year for all of us, whether we're in Rotary or not. But in Rotary, it was a very unique year. And, serving as president of Rotary International is a unique opportunity. Over the course, there are 1.2 million Rotarians around the world. 525 districts, Steve, something like that. But so far, counting Holger Canuck, there have only been 110 presidents of Rotary International. And it was a great honor and privilege for me to serve as Rotary's 109th president. And I had what I had hoped would be a unique distinction, that I would be the only president of Rotary International not to end the year with an in-person Rotary International Convention. This was a very unique situation. Never before in the 110 years but preceding that had a Rotary International Convention been canceled. Even during the darkest days of World War II, there was some sort of convention each and every year. But it was not to be in 2020. And Marta Knight and all of our Aloha governors and the Rotarians, 20,000 Rotarians and family members from around the world who were looking forward to Honolulu, were disappointed not to be able to share the connections on Waikiki Beach. It was really going to be fun. And so that is one of my greatest disappointments, is not being able to have the opportunity to participate as president at the International Convention. But of course, I'd hoped that I would be the only one, but as you know, the decision has been made that this year's convention, previously scheduled for Taipei, Taiwan, will now also be held virtually. and we are rooting for Houston in 2022. We sure hope we can make it to Houston. However, for those of us who missed out on Honolulu, we can look forward now to 2027, when the Rotary International Convention will return to Honolulu, Hawaii. Because of the special circumstances, the board granted the Honolulu the opportunity to make a bid for a later year without competing cities. And it has been approved. The board at the January meeting approved Honolulu to be the convention site in 2027. And that will be the second convention in Honolulu, it having been there in 1969. How many people on this call were at the convention in 1969? I didn't think so. I was 14. Somebody may have gone with their parents. But it has been a unique year. But even though it's been a unique year with its disappointments, I must say that I have never been prouder to be a Rotarian than I was during those closing months of the 2019-2020 Rotary year, as Rotarians proved that Rotary connects the world. Rotarians all over the world made the pivot from operating in person to operating in the virtual environment. It was amazing. We talk about one of our strategic priorities of having the ability, increasing our ability to adapt. And we showed that we have the ability to adapt. And Rotarians all over the world undertook significant projects in support of pandemic relief. And these projects covered the whole gamut. In Bangladesh, they immediately jumped in and purchased large jugs of hand sanitizer and put it into smaller containers and distributed it through the slums and the poorer sections of the communities so that those people would have hand sanitizer available to them. How many clubs around the world have sponsored projects to provide personal protective equipment? Now, be honest, how many people knew what the definition of PPE was 12 months ago? I certainly didn't. But boy, have we heard about it a lot now. But not only did you have simple projects like that, you had the project like the undertaken by the Italian Rotarians, where the 13 Rotary districts in Italy banded together to provide in 28 regional hospitals very sophisticated triage equipment for use to diagnose and treat COVID-19. Another thing that I'm very proud of for my year as president was the virtual convention. On March 18th, we made the decision not to have the convention in person in Honolulu. And, this year's a little different. The decision was made in January, but I think the staff knew what was coming 1 to 2 months beforehand. Back in last year, the staff may have started being suspicious, but on Friday, the 13th of March, I had a meeting with staff addressing some convention issues. On Monday, the 16th, I had a meeting with staff saying, I think we've got to cancel the convention. And on Wednesday, the 18th, the board took the decision in the very first virtual meeting of the board of directors of Rotary International to cancel the convention. And the staff did a phenomenal job, a fabulous job in putting on a virtual event in just 3 months' time. Going from in-person to doing something they had never done before. And they did it from home. They all did it from home. They're still doing it from home. And so, you know, of course, my house and one of the libraries at our law firm became recording studios. I would make, from the house, I would record videos to go out to clubs and districts for various different reasons. And from the law office, that upstairs law library was our virtual convention recording studio. But you think of a recording studio with cameramen and light people and
Lampshade go down the stairs accidentally.
and
Yes.
and people who would you know, help you along. The only other person in the room when I was recording was my wife, Gay. We had a backdrop. We had this laptop that I'm using now with this webcam. We would set the webcam up in front of the laptop to where I could just read over the top of it to see the teleprompter. And the teleprompter was being run by a staff person in Chicago. And remember, I'm in Alabama. And it was being recorded onto my laptop, not over the internet up there, which means that the staff people who were observing this from their various homes in the Chicago area, they could hear me speaking, but they could not see me because the camera can only do one thing at a time. And when it was recording to my laptop, it couldn't take that picture and transmit it to them. So we'd always go through this special process. Of course, I'd have to step forward to punch the button, but we had to know exactly where I was to stand. So I'd be in the right spot in front of the background. And I'd punch that button. And from that point on, they couldn't see. And I'd go through the whole take. And then I'd punch the button. And then I would have to upload the video to them so that they could then watch the video and see whether it was acceptable. And you know, there was one time when the sirens went by outside, had to do it again. One time when my email chime came on, had to do it. I didn't even notice it while I was recording. And they listened to it and said, that won't work. Let's do it again. And so that's the type of production that we had to go through to get the virtual convention together. And there were some incredible videos. I don't know that if you remember the Anytime video, that Anytime video on membership, on the need to form new clubs, was a concept that I expressed to them, and a staff member put that together in his home, and it was finished the day, 3 days before the virtual convention went on the air. So we owe our Rotary staff a great deal of gratitude. Of course, another great accomplishment that happened actually, well, it happened over the course of several years, but the recognition of it occurred just after the end of our Rotary year, was the acknowledgement that the African region is wild polio virus free, meaning that there are only 2 countries in the world left in which polio is endemic. And I guess one of the greatest achievements of the 2019-2020 Rotary year is the fact that the environment was added as a 7th area of focus. And that's something that I take great pride in. That would not have happened if it had not been for me pushing for that. The trustees had already reviewed it and decided to keep the 6 areas of focus during the prior year. And I pushed it. I talked with the trustees and directors about it at a joint meeting in October, and it took the whole year. But with the unanimous approval of the trustees and the unanimous endorsement by the board of directors, the environment was added as a 7th area of focus, something which I think is vitally important for our organization. So I could go on and talk about special moments and meeting presidents and not getting to meet the Pope like we were supposed to in May, and being 2 days away from meeting the Prince of Liechtenstein before our travels had to come to an end. But perhaps I ought to leave some time here in the final 15 minutes for questions from Rotarians here.
You folks want to send your questions to Don Phipps in the chat, and Don will read them to President Mark. You can do that. President Mark, do you think going forward that the International Convention can be a hybrid convention? In other words, we'll be in person like in Houston, and yet more people can participate because they can see it on Zoom and they can pay a small fee to be part of the convention, even though they're not in person?
That was supposed to happen in Honolulu. There was not going to be any fee associated with it, but we were going to have live, not the entire convention, but we were going to live stream certain aspects of the convention. And that was, and we were on the cusp of announcing that. You don't want to announce that too early. I mean, at some point it'll become expected, but we didn't want to announce it too early because we wanted to maintain a good crowd in Honolulu. But we were working towards that end. And there's no question there will be a virtual component to every convention in the future.
Interesting. I have another question, if you don't mind, till somebody else asks, but can you talk about Jennifer Jones being the first woman president for RI? And my sense is that there will be other women following as well. It's her good fortune to be the first one.
Yes. Well, Jennifer Jones is a natural. As an incoming trustee of the Rotary Foundation, I had the opportunity to hear her speak at the virtual International Assembly for the incoming district governors. And she did a fabulous job. She is such a great communicator. And I think she is going to be a tremendous president of Rotary International. Her communication skills leave someone like me in the dust. She just has the flair and the ability to communicate. And I think she's going to do a great job. And yes, we've been waiting for that first time that there would be a woman president of RI, and that has happened. And, of course, part of it is our pyramid structure. There's not just going to be a flood of women RI presidents because we haven't yet reached perhaps a flood of women RI directors, and you have to have served as an RI director. And however, you know, in the coming Rotary year, or is it this year, we have nine women on the board of directors of Rotary International, counting Jennifer, I think. I'd have to double check that. But, you know, during Barry Rassin's year, there were 0 women on the board of directors.
So I have some questions for you, Mark. The first one is, do you have a sense of how clubs are functioning internationally under this COVID situation?
There is an incredibly wide gamut. You know, here in my own district, we have 4 clubs that are not meeting at all, that haven't met since last March. One of them is in my neighboring town. And I think in Japan, for example, the number of clubs that are not meeting is a very high percentage, actually, probably more than 50%. But you have clubs that have taken to the virtual environment or the hybrid environment and embraced it and doing wonderful things all over the globe. And you have tremendous opportunities. My wife is a member of a different Rotary club because, as she told me, there's no Rotary club in the world big enough for both of us. And, you know, 26, 27 years ago, Gay said, you know, I need to be a Rotarian. And of course, there's only one Rotary club in Decatur. And so that meant I had to get going and get to work with the governor and get a second Rotary club going so that she could be a Rotarian. And in fact, her club celebrates its 25th anniversary next week. And, but the point of this is that there is a Rotarian from Australia who joins their club meeting every week. He was a GSE team member to our district many years ago, and he found out about the Zoom meeting for Gay's Rotary Club, and he joins. You know, he can join, you know, it's like 11 o'clock at night for him to participate in their 7 a.m. meeting. My club wouldn't work. It would be the middle of the night for him. And so he has been there every week for months. And that sort of thing just didn't exist before. So you're seeing new opportunities. Rotary opens opportunities. Somebody ought to get that for a theme. Oh, I mean, look at this. I mean, what a great theme that would be. And so, you know, I think you see the entire gamut from just complete capitulation, and we'll come back when things get back to normal, to fully embracing the opportunities. I mean, President-elect Shaker says his club has far better attendance now than it ever had before because they don't have to drive through the Calcutta traffic to get to the club meeting.
So I have another question for you from Larry Kramer. It says, that previous one was from Dugan, so just so that you get that properly credited. So from Larry, why did you push for environment to be the 7th spoke of the?
For 2 reasons.
Yep.
One, Rotarians wanted it. We need to be involved in the environment space. And I have to say, you know, supporting the environment in the United States can be a bit of a political issue. particularly when you get on to talking about climate change and using that terminology. But in virtually every other country of the world, it is not a political issue. Rotarians are eager to undertake projects in support of our environment. In the Philippines, I can remember being at a centennial for the Rotary Club of Manila, and I was just pounded with questions about environment. It was like they could think of in one session, they thought of 7 different ways to ask me about whether Rotary would get involved with environment. And so I think it's a space that we need to be in, and the Rotarians of the world are wanting it. Second, we need it frankly, from a very selfish aspect. If we want to be attractive to a younger demographic, environment has got to be in our portfolio. When someone goes to our website, some younger person trying to decide what sort of organization they'll become involved with, and they look through those 6 areas of focus and they don't see the environment, even though environment can be undertaken within those areas of focus, but they don't see it listed, how many of them are going to shut the browser and move on to a different organization? I think it's critical to our own membership development and engagement efforts. So those are the 2 principal reasons.
Okay, I got a real quick question here from Brett. It says, out of the blue question, since you're from Alabama, have you heard of Moe's Original Barbecue?
Yeah, Moe's is a chain here. Yes, it's, in fact, there's a Moe's 2 blocks from my office, just up the street. Not even 2 blocks, a block and a half.
Wow, okay.
Up the street. However, if you're from Decatur, Alabama, you are more likely to be impressed by our local homegrown Big Bob Gibson's barbecue.
Okay. So I got another one from Douglas.
Of course, you can get a beer at Moe's and you can't at Big Bob's.
Oh, there you go. That's important.
It can for a certain group, yes.
Yes. Our club in California is somewhat worried about the lack of disease insurance coverage. Should we be concerned, or will the courts consider such lawsuits frivolous?
Well, it's a good thing he asked an attorney, Mark.
I have no idea. I'm a tax attorney. I'm an ag lawyer.
Okay. So next one. Can you address how Rotary is accomplishing, or at least plan to accomplish, diversity, equity, and inclusion goals?
Well, for one, we're beginning to focus on it. It was only in January, it was only 2 years ago. No. I think it was January of 2019 when the statement on diversity, equity, and inclusion was adopted by the board of directors. I may be wrong. Maybe it was the January of the year before. It was January of 2018 or 2019. So, and I have not seen a topic as conscientiously latched onto by the highest leadership. Now, I can't say, but by the highest leadership of our organization than diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's not for want of trying at the highest levels if we do not succeed in this area. Rotary is working on this very hard. Now, you know, this is one of these, you know, I'm sure that in certain clubs, there's a great deal of interest, and in other clubs, it's not even on their radar, and probably more of the latter. And, you know, we have a saying in Rotary that it takes 3 years in Rotary for an idea to catch on. And so I think we need to be aware of that as we work through this. And you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion has a lot of different interpretations in different parts of the world. You know, there's some parts of the world where the membership is, you know, 80 to 90% male, and they won't be looking at diversity necessarily as meaning gender diversity. And so, you know, it will take different times in different parts of the world. You know, one thing that made me uncomfortable when I was president going around was that I would be, particularly in India, this happened. A group of Rotarians would come up to me and, you know, we're the members of this all-female Rotary Club. Isn't that great? And, you know, I would be polite and I wouldn't say anything negative, but, you know, we're trying to move away from single gender Rotary clubs. But this is a part of the world where many of the Rotary clubs that existed before were all male. And so the answer was to have all female Rotary clubs. And governors would take great pride in their all female Rotary clubs. Well, when you come from the United States, where a single gender club is rare, not non-existent, but rare, how do you react to that? What's the right way to react to that? And I didn't want to be discouraging, so I was always positive in my responses.
President Mark, thank you so much for your patience, your generosity of spirit to spend time with us, to share your thoughts about Rotary, where we are and where we're going. And, you know, on behalf of our district, I can't thank you enough for taking the time and sharing your insights and wisdom with us. And of course, your year of service during a most unusual time. So thank you again. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Good to be with you all this evening. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Marta. I've lost Marta. I don't know where she is on my screen here. And anyway, thank you so much. It's a pleasure. I see her now. She's on my second screen. Good night, all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.